what matters? Okay, let me try to paint the picture, literally in kind of like background and foreground here a little bit. So when investors think about investing in a startup, they think about it in kind of like these two parts. So the background part is things that you don't really have much control over. As like a founder, these are just things that matter to to people investing in you, but you don't have much control over. And then the foreground is stuff that you can work on yourself. So I just break it up into these two parts. Okay, let me talk about the background a little bit. The stage determines the level of expectations that all investors have. So if you're like raising a Series A, that's a very different thing than raising a pre-seed round, for example. And depending on what stage you are, they have different expectations about what they're looking for, how far along the company should be, et cetera, et cetera. So stage matters a lot, but there's not a lot you can do about it. You're at the stage that you're at, but stage dictates a lot. Even the type of investors that you're like talking to, some investors only invest in Series A, and if you're pre-seed, you shouldn't even talk to them. It's a complete waste of your time. They like, not only will they not invest in you, they actually cannot. Their fund dictates how much money they can deploy and all that. And so even if they wanted to, they couldn't. So it's a waste of your time. Two is fit. So there's the stage part and then there's fit. Some investors invest are very thesis driven. And what that means is that they have a certain focus area that they invest in. So for example, Web3 investors, their thesis is investing in Web3 and they only kind of focus on that. So if you're a Web3 company, fantastic. If you are not a Web3 company, you shouldn't even talk to them. And so some investors like us, we are completely kind of agnostic. We like to invest in all kinds of businesses, but some investors have specific kind of things that they want to invest in, and it's not much you can do about that. You just want to find the investor that kind of fits you the best. So stage and fit are important. You should know about it. You should think about it, but there's not much you can kind of like do about it. Okay, foreground. So foreground is what you can actually kind of like do. And so investors kind of think about it in these three parts. The story is kind of like, what is the bet the investors are making? So all startup pitches, especially if I think most of the people here are probably pretty early, are around like, the world works like this. I think it should work like this. Here's what I'm going to do to kind of like make that work. You should give me money so I can kind of do that. Who knows if that's true, if that's all going to work out, but it's a story you tell and it's an argument that you're making about the world. And so they're investing in that. So if I believe that the problem that you described is real, that the solution that you are presenting is kind of the right one, and I believe that you can kind of do it, then I'll invest, right? So the story is kind of this like narrative about how this works. You can think about traction as kind of as supporting evidence. So you just told me this story about how the world works and what you're going to do about it. And your traction is evidence that your story is likely true. And so I think I'll cover this in more in kind of like detail later, but you can think about it as, if you tell me this fantastical story and you have no evidence that it's true, it's less likely that I'm going to believe in your story, and therefore it's less likely that I'm going to invest in your company. And so think about traction as kind of like evidence that what you're saying is true. Then the final part here is obviously the team. So if you tell me this really good story and that's kind of believable and enticing, you have traction to make me believe that it's true, then I need to kind of believe that you're going to be the right people to kind of like make this all kind of like happen and come together. So background is stage and fit, and then foreground of the fundraising is story, traction, and team. That's kind of what matters to investors.